New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Robyn Rice Olmsted, and that was my husband's shoulder in the picture, Gil William Olmsted. How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Rockin the Love. We are so excited to be here with you today. We are so excited we have a guest on our show today, the Reverend Karen Linsley. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things, it sounded like, in our little pre-meeting, but all very exciting and all about love, right?
It's all about love, isn't it?
That's what they say.
Yeah, it's all love. However we cut it, however we
Sticking
slice
with
it. Yep. So it's all about love and it's all about relationship, which is why we do this show.
That's right.
Because we have so many different relationships we are in, and all of them include, guess who? Yourself. Yay.
And at the end of the day, it's what's really important is the love. And it's always going to be the guiding and the leading force. And so it's about being able to find the love in those situations. And sometimes they're difficult situations. So anyway, if you're joining us, please feel free to put it in the chat. Let us know where you're watching us from. Just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Bienvenidos. We're glad to have you here on this beautiful Wednesday. Wherever you are, I hope it's as sunny as it is here.
Where are you?
And not as hot as it is there. I'm in Southern California. I'm in Carlsbad, California. And it's warm. It's toasty. I mean, I know weather has changed all over the world in the past few years, but I have to say, being a Southern California girl, it is weird. It's like weirdly humid and totally different than it has been. Like I was walking out of Trader Joe's the other night, and a guy who worked there was bringing in the boxes, and he's like, yeah, it's warm. I'm like, it feels like we're on vacation, because I felt like I was in Hawaii or some tropical island, and he was like, it's so humid. So weather is an interesting thing.
Yeah, it is. We're in the mid 90s right now today, and that means it's hot when you go outside.
And where are you?
And I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And last night, it didn't drop below my air conditioning level until about 1 a.m. So my house was opened up for about 4 or 5 hours and then closed it right back up again.
It's quite the illusion.
Yeah. So what's going on there?
What's going on? So I am just trying to get adjusted to working a real job, which I'm working a remote job, for those of you that don't know. And for anyone that knows me, I know you're saying, well, how did you have time to fit a job into all the things you do? And it's a really good question. It really is a good question. But I'm doing it, and it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. I notice I'm much more aware of my body, like how I react to things when I'm working a remote job. When I'm doing like, oh, I'm going to this meeting, I'm on this Zoom call, I'm creating this, I'm, facilitating that. It's a different energetic, you know.
Mhm.
It's really just trying to figure out, how to align, align with the energy I want as opposed to that other energy of work. And it's not even a work energy. It's a learning curve because it's a lot to learn. I don't like feeling like I don't know and I have to ask for help and all those things. So it's lovely. It's a lovely opportunity. That's my story.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. How
Every week,
do you
Mr.
have
Ohm.
time for this? How do you make time? What I find fascinating though is all the people I've read about doing remote jobs, particularly since COVID, who were doing 2 or 3 of them at the same time. And
Yeah,
that's a challenge. Um,
I get that. I've contemplated doing another one at the same time.
okay. Okay. All right. Well, my week was good. Things are going well. I'm getting ready to go camping this weekend, picking up our godson tomorrow night when he flies in.
Oh
Uh,
God, that's tomorrow night. Wow.
that's tomorrow night. Yep. And we're headed up to near Pecos, New Mexico, in Friday morning, early afternoon, somewhere right in there. So that's kind of exciting, and we had Robyn mistakenly sent me a picture of a dog and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think I like him. I think he's really somehow cutely ugly." And so last night I adopted a dog. So I have a new little dog. So it'll keep me entertained, keeps me busy. Um, so far, he's incredibly easy to deal with. Um, but it's a new experience and one I am happy to be having. And I think in some ways he's making me work harder because I'm paying attention. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And the exciting news is next week I'll be there with you.
Yep.
And
As of
here's breaking news to all of our listeners and our producer as well. I'm in Albuquerque for 2 months. Count them. 2 months, 8 weeks. I say when you haven't been in Albuquerque on an ongoing basis, go in the summer. Go in the summer. See if you're really as strong as you think you are. So, yeah, off to New Mexico. I'm very excited to be there with you.
Yes. Yep. That's exciting. And we won't be here the whole time though, because we're going to be going the first part of August to Mexico to the Conference of the Americas. That
Yes.
should be fun.
And
That's going to
yeah,
be fun.
it will be fun. And if any of you are interested in joining us, I think there is an early bird special until the end of this month. So you want to get your registration in early.
And the wonderful thing about this particular conference is that registration includes your hotel and meals and the conference, and it's all pretty darn reasonable for that.
Yeah, and it's from what I've heard, I've never been to the conference, but from what I've heard, I've never heard anyone that didn't have a good time, that didn't like it, that didn't come away changed, that didn't have a revelation. And and I will say from having lived in Mexico and gone to school in Mexico and having family in Mexico, it is truly a different experience. It's a whole different experience to be in the country with the people, and it's just I don't know. It's just an amazing energetic. So if you have an opportunity, I say join us. But if you don't have an opportunity to join us, I say go anyway at some point because it's just amazing.
Well, and I'm honored to be speaking at one of the sessions there, and the two of us are doing a workshop while we're there. So that'll be fun. Anything else we should tell them about?
No, they'll be great speakers. There'll be Reverend Sonny Kemtrell and what's her name? Is doing the workshop on Monday. Come on, people, help me out. Come on, Abigail's church.
Oh, yes. Now it one's out of my head because you said that.
Kathy
Kathy Ann Lewis.
Kathy Ann Lewis is doing a special workshop on the Monday before the conference starts. And there's some other people, but you can go on the website and check it out, and it'll tell you a little bit more about people and things and all that good stuff. Yeah. And we're actually going to have somebody on in a couple of weeks that's in charge of the conference as well. Ellen will be coming to visit us. So you'll hear more about it. But now it's time for the good news.
Good news.
This is our segment where we like to focus on the good news because it's so easy to hear what isn't good in the world. And it's really, we don't get an opportunity to hear as much good news. So that's why we have this segment. So Gil, what's your good news for the week?
All right. So I am clearly on the dog path since, as I mentioned earlier, I've just had a new dog come into the house. So there were a couple of guys, State Farm compadres, hanging out. They went to go fishing in a lake in Mississippi, and they hired somebody to go out in the lake. And the guy who was running the boat noticed some hunting dogs out in the water. They had been chasing a deer, and the deer took off and was much better in the water than the dogs. And as it turned out, they ended up going over to where the dogs were. They ran 3 different trips to the shore with the dogs to get them all, because there were 36 or 38 dogs. And they would not, the dogs had gotten to the place where they couldn't really see the shore and they were wearing out. And so they basically saved all these dogs because the boat person was alert, and the guys who were fishing were totally willing to go and help and drag them all into the boat and get them on shore. So I thought it was an interesting story, and interesting, sometimes we think animals can do anything, and they get in trouble too sometimes. So I thought that was cool.
That is cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I decided not this week not to do a story, but to just give you some facts, because the FBI just released its latest uniform crime report, and what they found is a positive trend continuing across the U.S. that violent and property crimes are dropping by double digits. And so compared to January and March of last year to January and March of this quarter, the reported crime has decreased 15.2%. Murder decreased by more than 26%. Rape is down by 25.7%. Robbery has dropped by 17.8%. Aggravated assault reports decreased by 12.5%. Property crime also decreased by just over 15%. And that's data from over 18,000 cities, counties, states, tribal, university, colleges, kind of thing, federal law enforcement agencies. So crime really declined in almost every category. And more, it's actually the lowest. the lowest rate of violent crimes in more than 50 years, and one of the biggest drops in murder rates seen in history.
So you know what's amazing about that?
What?
Is because we are so exposed to news from everywhere, it would seem that all those things are up. It would seem they must be increasing. And the reality, the good news is in fact that that we have to be aware of what we're taking in and where it's coming from, and the fact that our society is different now. You know, we don't have to send it by Pony Express outside the country to learn about it. I mean, things happen instantaneously. We know about little things happening in one place that we would have never known about 50 or 100 years ago, you know?
Right.
So, so anyway, I think that's really good news. And I think it's encouraging for us to hold that space of knowing that this can be a world where love prevails all the time somehow.
Yeah, and I want to welcome Bonnie Gonzalez out there, our doula for grief, and that she is she's actually asking what is the reason for this drop in crime, and you know we don't know. They didn't talk about the reason, but I'm going to say clearly it's because we're holding the space for this kind of thing to happen. Exactly what you just said. You know, I mean, I think that there is something that is shifting on the planet, you know, and whether you want to say, you know, prayer works or love rules or all of those things are true. I think the work we do here on this show and that everybody takes out into the world and all the New Thought shows are doing, and our guest has a great podcast as well. I mean, we got a lot of people holding a vision for those kind of numbers to drop, you know? And so I don't know. I you know, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I think that.
Well, I think there is rhyme or reason, but they didn't state any of their thoughts about what the reasons might be. Yeah.
There's no technical data in a book that says this is why crime has dropped. Once
Indeed.
again, we just have to know.
Oh, gosh.
We have to know the truth of who we are and what we do.
And where it comes from.
Oh my God, that's exhausting enough to make us go to a commercial.
You think?
I think.
I think it's time anyway, because we got to get on to our special guest.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to move on. We're going to take a little break and, you know, look at some of what's going on here at New Thought Media Network. And when we come back, we'll be back with our special guest, the infamous Reverend Karen Linsley. And so you don't want to miss that. So grab a beverage and a snack, come back and join us right here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
People of African Descent New Thought Group proudly presents Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village, Thursday, August 1st through Sunday, August 4th. Some of our greatest keynote speakers, some of our finest musicians and vocalists, some of our amazing and experienced panelists, and some of our fabulous masterclass presenters will be there for you at Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village this summer. Regular registration ends June 30th, so don't delay. Register today at padntg.com. Sponsorship opportunities are available at padntg.com. Volunteer opportunities are available at padntg.com. Go there now, padntg.com. See you there.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I am Robyn and
I'm Gil, and we're excited to have our Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen.
There you go.
I feel like the Brady Bunch, like in the little boxes.
With a little box. Hi, I'm so and so. Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought I'd take a second and give people a little bit of background, Karen. That you've been a minister with Centers for Spiritual Living since 2014, a practitioner since 2008. You were ordained in 2018. She serves as an interim minister for various locations. She's done that since 2019, and I will say that's where I first met her. She was serving as interim in Rio Grande in Albuquerque before I went there, so she set me up pretty well. She has her podcast and her other items that she does, all under this Fearlessly Feral Living moniker. And so she says she's been doing workshops and classes since the ink was still wet on her practitioner license. So there's lots of other stuff I could say. And she's a speaker, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say that she lives in out in the country in a cool spot in Nevada. And I personally just appreciate all that she is and who she is. And I'm grateful that she's with us. And she let me come to her house and pet her horse. So I really like you.
Yeah. You both came and pet the horses and the dogs. Yep. You both came and your godson got to ride one of the horses.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
It was very peaceful where you live.
It really is.
Very peaceful. Yeah. Yeah. And you guys should see it right now. It's got, my garden this year is hopping. I mean, it's beautiful. It's, not a day goes by that I don't publish a flower picture on Facebook. Oh, look at this one just popped up. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's doing really well. You guys were there in the fall when all the flowers were gone. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there weren't a lot of flowers then.
Wasn't there like snow on the ground?
Well, there was snow up at Tahoe where you guys were staying. Did we have snow where I was? I don't think we had any
I think
snow.
you did.
Yeah.
But it was cold.
Well, we were digging the ice out of the horse watering trough.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
So it was cool.
Yeah, because my heater broke. My water trough heater broke.
Yeah.
I knew there was something that resembled real weather.
Yeah.
Nice. So, but amidst all this weather, you've had time to write books.
I have. So I'm pretty excited that I'm just finishing up my third book. And this book has been years in the making. It started life as a daily reader. And I was really excited for a little while about doing a daily reader. And then I got stuck. And part of the time I got stuck, I was serving as interim minister in Albuquerque. So I was busy, but I got stuck and I couldn't get unstuck. And one day this is where I get the majority of my best thinking happens when I'm cleaning the horse stalls. So I was out cleaning the horse stall one day, and all of a sudden I got this thought that came in, and it said, and the book told me it did not want to be a daily reader. And I said, well, what do you want to be? And it said, well, Karen, your whole focus ministry, Fearlessly Feral Living, is about taking all of those really yummy spiritual principles and spiritual practices that we talk about in Science of Mind and Centers for Spiritual Living, and applying them in very practical, real life, everyday ways. That's what the book needs to be about. So that's what it's about.
All right.
That's what it's about.
And isn't that what it's all about? Figuring out how we actually live these principles?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a 3-parter. The first part lays out all the spiritual practices. And I have 14 of them. I couldn't narrow it down. I wanted to keep it to 12 because 12 is like this magic number kind of thing. No, there's in fact, I could add a couple more that carry it away. 14 spiritual practices, and then the second section is all the spiritual principles like oneness and unconditional love and creativity and all those good, yummy principles. The third section breaks it down into months, January, February, March, etc. Each month grabs a practice and a principle, sometimes more than one, and describes how someone could take those principles and practices for the month and apply them in their life. And I encourage a deep dive into the same practice and the same principle for the whole month. So by the end of the month, you really got it nailed. And then in the next month, you start over again with another set of practice and principle. So that's the book.
So do you have people like adding to it, or do they just do different practices at different points? The way you set up the book.
Each month is separate. I'm not sure I understand your question.
Yeah, are you thinking that people sort of, I'll go through January and I'll get meditation down, and then you're going to add in tithing, and so now I'm going to do that in February on top of my meditation, and that that kind of idea.
Oh, it does kind of build on it, although there's one practice that, and I may be biased. I probably am biased. But my favorite spiritual practice is introspection, knowing thyself. Everything stems from that. We can't go out and do our good work in the world and practice unconditional love out in the world unless we are doing that with ourselves, and we can't do that with ourselves unless we know ourselves. So introspection is listed every single month.
Ah, okay.
But I have a different way to do that practice every month. And then I added in some others, like let me see if I can pull it up. And I can't talk and pull up stuff on the computer at the same time, but I add some others. So there's always introspection in there. There's always introspection in there, but this is working out really quickly. Okay. So
it sounds like however it comes up right now, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunities in there for workshops and classes and exploration
Yes.
of each topic.
Yes, exactly. So, okay, I just pulled up March randomly. March has introspection, and then we've got treatment, introspection and treatment as the practices, and then threefold nature as the principle.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And I know are you still doing a lot of the wedding stuff you were doing?
Yes, I have 2 this week.
Okay.
2
What do you
weddings.
like about doing your weddings, out of curiosity?
Oh, it's the love, guys. It's the love. You led me right into that. You did that very nicely, Rev and Gil. So so with the ritual of getting married, that ritual of saying, I promise to love you forever, blah, 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 that ritual takes the love that the couple already has for one another and it changes it. And it changes the couple. And that commitment that they're making on that day has a lifetime of ramifications for them. It changes everything. It changes the individuals in the relationship, and it changes them as a couple, and it changes the relationship itself. And so that, when I see that, when I perform a wedding, I get all warm and fuzzy. I feel so good inside because I know this couple is making that commitment. They're going through this ritual, and they don't even know yet what. Look at your producer loves performing weddings. It's funny, we know her in the background with him. I forgot what I was saying. They don't know yet what's going to happen to them as a result of this ritual. They might have some ideas, but they don't really know. It's all new. It's all wonderful. So they come into this relationship and they start dating and they start doing the thing, and they fall in love, and then they decide they're going to make this commitment to one another, and they do this ritual. And sometimes it happens really fast, and sometimes I've had couples that have known each other, well, like my husband and I, we knew each other for 40 years before we got married. Some people longer than others to get to it. But yeah. Yeah.
We had a younger couple in the center that got married last week, and it was outside. It was a beautiful spot, and a practitioner from the Albuquerque Center actually performed the wedding. And I was talking to him for a minute afterwards, and he said, "Yeah, when they first sent me the stuff about it had all this flowery language and all this stuff." And I went back to him. I said, "Really? Do we want to have a little reality in here about what marriage is like?" So,
don't go to bed angry.
Yeah, sometimes people are coming in with, they're so painting over it as if it's going to be so wonderful that they're not even realizing how much they're going to have to change in order for this to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's also a new reality of what marriage and relationship and commitments are, because I think that, when you're living by, okay, I'm going to get married and it's going to look like, something you've seen in a movie or on TV or some old idea, when in reality, it feels like marriage has moved much more, at least, who knows? I'm in a bubble with, science of mind people. But it feels like marriage has moved more towards a place of partnership and really exploring what each person needs to make the situation work.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And yet I know that, not everybody comes equipped with all of those tools. So I think that's where Karen's book becomes so important, because those, we can call them spiritual principles, we can call them whatever we want to call them, but they're really concepts to live by. When you take out the religion or spirituality of the situation, I mean, that's what you want. All those things are what you want to have in a relationship, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've always contended that anybody who's in some kind of a committed relationship has committed themselves to deal with their own stuff, or the relationship dissolves eventually. Because, I mean, I've told this and I've said it before, but, I told Robyn, in my 2 previous marriages to her, I realized the common denominator was me.
Yes.
And she would say now that's still the issue. But
Yeah.
but it's not quite as bad as it was. So
Well, but in reality, it's not. It is still the case.
yeah,
The common denominator is you. However, you've decided to deal with you.
right.
And you've decided to wake up and be aware of you and take responsibility for you. Where in your previous marriages, that probably wasn't so much the case. So it's all really an awakening to all the principles in Karen's book on some level, to being able to be with yourself and do your own work.
Yeah.
And I want to welcome Shay out there. I know Shay's out there, and others that have joined us late. We're speaking with Karen Linsley, who is a minister and an author and a podcaster and a shapeshifter. She's an amazing human being who's on her 3rd book, and we're just talking about the concepts in her book and equating them to relationship. Yes, and she has a ministry called Fearlessly Feral, as well as a podcast by the same name.
Okay, so I have a question, and that is, tell me a little bit about what feral in your meaning there, or fearlessly feral, what that means to you.
Oh my goodness. Well,
I mean, I'm sure that's a very in depth, but just a snippet of
just a quickie. Okay. So originally I wanted to make the title of my focus ministry Wild and Free. Wild and Free was taken. Can't use it. Somebody else already using it. It's very popular. So I thought, okay, let's get the thesaurus out. Let's get the dictionary out. Let's do some visioning. What do I really want to say with my ministry here? And I do. I want to say that it is possible to live wild and free. Well, what's freedom? Freedom is no limitation. Freedom is not an absence of fear, because we're always going to have fear, but it's not allowing the fear that we have to limit us. And I like to take it a step further and say that we can use that tool as a fear, because it has something to say to us. It can guide us into our next greatest evolution of living. So that's the fearless piece. And then the feral piece, living wild. So living wild in my mind means living without restrictions placed upon us by society. Those things that say you got to dress in a certain way, and you got to wear your hair in a certain way, and you got to behave in a certain way, and you got to do this and you got to be that. And I've never subscribed to any of that. I've always, people talk about marching to the beat of a different drummer and traveling the road less traveled, all of the books of which I've read. You guys probably have too. It's that. It's all of that. So that's what fearlessly feral means.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
that makes sense. Living
Yeah.
on that wild, and so much of that is about us noticing how we act and respond and what we're thinking and what we're believing, and then, you know, realizing that we're in the position to reevaluate that and rethink it, you know, and I think that's all part of your newest book is about that ways to get in touch with that stuff.
Bonnie said it perfectly. The only limitations we have that prevents us from living free are the ones we place on ourselves.
Yes, those
Right.
self-imposed limitations. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but I love what you said, not allowing fear to limit us. Because it sounds like, oh yeah, that's such a great thing. And how do you really implement it? Like, what would you say, you know, what would you say from your book or from your experience with either one? But like, how would you guide somebody to really take the first steps in not allowing fear to limit you?
Oh, that's such a good question. So the first step is to actually recognize that you have fear. I mean, people don't always recognize that we have fear. We don't recognize the manifestations of fear. And while I'm on the manifestations of fear, there's a new book out by Dennis Merritt Jones called the seven messages of fear, I think, something like that. When fear speaks, listen. And then there's 7 messages. And the messages of fear are the manifestations of fear are things like anger. And so when we feel anger, what we're really feeling underneath it all is fear. Mm-hmm. So we have to pay attention, which leads into that spiritual practice of introspection. Gotta know what's going on inside of us. The second piece with fear is allowing. You can't fight it. You can't push it down. You can't stuff it. You can't deny it. And you certainly can't go into spiritual bypass behind it. You have to allow it. And so allowing is huge with that. And then in the allowing comes this beautiful piece where we can actually have a conversation with fear and say, why are you here? What's the message? What's the message you have for me? Why am I afraid? And, in some cases, like I've just recently overcome a huge fear of mine that took the form, it was a classic case of PTSD. And it was frustrating and difficult and hard. And I went through that process of introspection and allowing and having a conversation with it. And then I had to add some more tools and find out why, how my body was expressing it, because apparently I discovered on this journey, trauma lives in the body. We may have taken care of it psychologically, but trauma lives in the body, according to the experts. So I learned some bodily things to do to take care of this fear. And it is not completely gone, but boy, it sure is manageable. It sure is manageable. Yeah. And the message just popped up about the doula wrote, feel the fear and do it anyway. Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Feel the fear and do it anyway. But do it with gentleness and compassion and self-love and no judgment, just love.
I think you hit on something really interesting, and thank you for sharing from your own story as well. But the people, I think we often we often use our fears as excuses. I have PTSD, period. As if, well, what do you expect? And while at some level I get that, but if that's really kind of where we're anchoring ourselves, we're not allowing the space to really communicate with it, learn from it, figure out how my life can be fuller, even in the midst of having walked through this experience, right?
Yes. It's about whether or not we want to live in the story of I have PTSD or whether or not we want to change that story, not change it, acknowledge the story, but create a new one and say, well, yeah, I might have that, but I'm over here now, and this new life is free from all of that. We're doing things differently over here. We've got tools we didn't have back then. We've got skills we didn't have back then, and we get to change our story, you know. And we're back to the old slogan: change your thinking, change your life. And we get to move out of that story, and create something new. Some people call it reframing. I don't know that it's necessary to reframe the story or change the story, because the story is the story. It is what it is. But I do think it's necessary to create a new story. That's how I used to live. This is how I want to live now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it's so interesting that. Yeah, I mean, because I just feel like, yes, I totally agree. And sometimes that's so much easier said than done, you know, really realizing, you know, what's your story. Like, you know, I was having this conversation last night with a 15-year-old, and, you know, his mom and I were busy trying to tell him, you know, what is the story you have? What is the story you hold? What is the story you're bringing forth? What do you want your story to be? And I thought, and I looked at his blank gaze and thought, I get it. I don't know that I would have known what the hell I was talking about if somebody had said that to me. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's so interesting to really, really grasp the concept that we are the architects of our story, because we're used to it being out there, you know, not right here. We grow up learning you need somebody to help you do this, and you need something to help you do that, and, you know, and then all of a sudden we're thrown into this place of, you know, spirituality where it's like, you don't need anyone. All that you need is within you. It's like, what? You know, I mean, it's interesting, like, especially like if you're letting go of these beliefs and, you know, your midlife somewhere, it's interesting.
Yeah. You have a definite point, Robyn, and I wouldn't have known what my story was when I was 15. I didn't know what my story was until I was in my 40s. It's like it didn't know. I was just totally clueless. But, you know, we come on this path, and the other thing you said was that we are the creators, the architects. I think that was the word you used. And I think there's a yes and in there, because there's also stuff that happens in life.
Yeah.
And we did not contribute to the creation of that, particularly when we were young. Stuff happens, and our job is we move through life and get and become adults, theoretically mature adults. We get to look at that, and that's when we get to start to take responsibility for ourselves and say, yeah, that happened. Yeah, it was not good. No, I don't want that to happen to anybody. But that, and yeah, that used to be my story. But now I want a new story. And you're right, it's a lot easier to say that than to do it. Sometimes with some of those stories, it takes a really, really, really long time and a lot of effort. And yet sometimes with some of those stories, using the tools that we have, that we teach in Science of Mind, it can be instant. It can be instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You know,
I think the key is what you said, Gil. I mean, is about your relationships. It's once you really realize that you are the common denominator, that you are the thing in the equation. That
whatever was happening around me, I was always there, and something in me was responding and reacting and participating, and you know, whatever no matter how much of it was, quote, coming from out there, or, kind of thing. We have a good friend who's been on the show before, who tells a story of a woman at an event with a spiritual teacher, and she asks him about how can she deal with the fact that some years ago she had been raped by these three men, and this whole story, which is a terrible story, horrible story. And he looked at her and he said, "Who's telling the story?" And so, that goes back to what you were saying. It's like, do we make that who we are, or do we make that an experience we had, which was, less than good, if you will. But, and he said, do you think because she was talking about forgiveness and stuff. And he said, do you think those three guys ever think about it? That they never think about you. This is only happening in your head, and it sounded a little harsh on the one hand, but it points out that idea, so clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said about, yes, that happened, and no, it was not good. But do I want to make that my story?
Right.
And we're a choice there, whether or not we can make it our story.
Yeah. Yeah. We live, and we always talk about where we're coming from, where are we living from, where are we praying from, where are we showing up from. And if we're from that, whatever that traumatic story is in our life, that's how we're kind of showing up in the world, is at some level of trauma. And if we can show up from a different story of knowing who we are, of knowing that we've been loved in this situation, and shift that, it's a whole different thing.
Yes.
Wow, this has been fun.
Wow. It's a lot. And I just think, and you talked about different concepts in your book, but we're really only focusing on one. So there's so much. It sounds like a fabulous book, and it's going to be out in the fall.
In the fall, yes. And it'll be available on Amazon in both print and Kindle, as well as directly from me.
Fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm a Kindle fan.
Me too. Me too. I'd be like one of those hoarders with the books if it weren't for Kindle. There'd be a little pathway from my kitchen to the bedroom to the bathroom to my office, and that would be all the room there was, with all the books all stacked up everywhere.
So, okay, let me ask you a question about that, both of you. So, don't you ever think well, but what happens when you're gone? It's just gone. Don't you have any feelings about that? I have feelings about that. Like my music and stuff. I'm like, wow, if I build a big music library, it just goes.
Well, you could give to the Kindle to an heir, but I mean.
But you don't think it doesn't come up for you guys? It's just like,
no.
That's good. That's good. It's good. I'm just channeling my inner hoarder. I just wonder, because it's a lot of stuff we're accumulating in a cloud somewhere. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just wonder, in the big scheme of the world, obviously there's another show topic, but where does it all go? And what happens, and how come we don't get to share that with other people? And
yeah.
Anyway.
And the question that comes up for me is, how much room is there in that cloud anyway? It's like, and the other question, the related question that comes up for me is, in Ernest Holmes, and he talks about immortality, and he says our souls remain forever. Well, I'm a little concerned about it getting kind of crowded in Soul Land.
So that's like a whole show. We should do on those kind of things. What happens? How could this be? That's funny. It's a little crowded.
Yeah. I'm just, little thoughts that pop in my head occasionally.
Well, you just have to go back to the thought that we're all one.
That's
So
true.
there's really only one of us there.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
That frees up a lot of space.
It frees up and thank you for the grounding, Robyn, because that I need that grounding. Oh my God, she brought me back down to her. Thank you.
Well, this has been delightful. You'll have to come back in the fall when your book is out, and
Okay,
we'd love to have you again. And wow,
And maybe we can explore one of these questions. One or two of these
yeah.
questions.
I don't think we have enough time to even explore that, even with a full show. I mean, we might get kind of out there with that one, but we'll see.
it's kind of that spiritual things that make you go thing.
Yeah.
So if you have anything out there that you'd like us to explore that makes you go feel free to put it in the chat or to send it to us. And I just want to thank Karen for joining us today, and everyone out there, Wayne and Bonnie, and those of you that did not put your name in the chat. I know you're out there.
Shay.
I see you. Shay actually has her healing sessions today at Wednesdays in the afternoon. If you want to connect with her, and I think that's all I have to say. Do you have anything to say?
I just want to say thank you again. It's nice to hang out with you, Karen, and I appreciate you for all that you've contributed, and I feel lucky to have followed your wisdom. And you'll be very happy to know that the website thing has rebirthed itself and is very excited and may actually see some serious traction in the next couple months.
Yay.
So I know.
Okay, so they're talking shop talk. They're talking shop talk, but yeah, I just want to second, Karen. I just appreciate all you're doing in the world, because I know, we talked about your book, but there's so much more and so many more things you do, and so many lives and animal lives you affect, and I appreciate you helping to create that space of love on the planet. So thank you
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to have you guys on my podcast, so we'll communicate later. And
All right.
if you want to come back to this area anytime, I will cook for you.
Okay.
Anybody who friends Karen on Facebook, she puts delicious meals into her feed, makes your mouth water.
Yeah, I'll cook for you. That's what I do. That's my love language, guys. I cook for you. Okay.
That's it. That's all you get.
All right. So carry that love language out into the world this week, and everybody just keep on rocking the love. Thank you to our producer, Michael Mangus, for being here and supporting us, and to all of New Thought Media. That's all we got for today. Just rock the love, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.